Hey everybody, welcome back to Dollars and Cents, the show where we discuss the business of football with Andrew Brandt of the National Football Post. A very, very intriguing interview each and every time. Andrew, great to have you back, buddy. How are you?
Good to be with you, Sid. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving.
I did, thank you. Was yours nice?
Very nice, thanks.
Excellent. Now, before we get to the football stuff today, I know that you're obviously an agent for many, many years, going back to the early days of Ricky Williams and Brett Favre, and even doing contracts with the rookies of the Philadelphia Eagles last year. Quickly here, tell me how you would handle the latest situation with Tiger Woods.
Well, it's obviously what everyone's talking about. I think what had to be done, and it was done a little bit late, was to just get out in front of this. And I think the people around Tiger, and he's got tremendous people around him, and he's got all kinds of handlers and agents and managers and marketers, etc., really needed to get out in front of this and make sure he was confronting his wife with everything that came, everything that happened, and making sure that they, in addition to her, of course, heard everything there was. And I think a tough conversation had to happen where they had to ask Tiger, now, is this all there is? And if there's more, need to get out in front of it, because there's going to be this slow drip of maybe women coming out and saying they were involved with Tiger, maybe other things coming out because now the floodgates, the faucet has been turned on. And I think that's what we are. I mean, we're in an age where there's a desensitization of athlete indiscretions. We know it goes on. We just don't like to see it, especially from someone we held up as kind of a perfect guy in Tiger Woods. That's obviously changed, and whether it changes permanently or not, we'll see. We are a very forgiving land, especially to our celebrities, but we'll see where it goes. As you know, the sponsors are all in support of Tiger. He's obviously their cash cow. He's obviously their bread and butter. So I don't think we'll see a lot of people pulling away for that. But for image purposes, you got to get out in front of this. You got to get out in front of it fast, and at some point, he's got to meet the media.
Agreed. And at some point, too, he has to stop acting like he's the victim here. He's come out the last couple of days complaining, oh, I want my privacy. Well, you can't have it both ways. Anyway, let's move on. The subject of concussions is a hot-button issue here, Andrew, in the NFL. The league has responded by issuing a memo on Wednesday night with new guidelines for players that suffered head injuries. Have you ever seen anything like this with the amount of concussions before? Roethlisberger, Kurt Warner, Westbrook in Philadelphia. It seems like a lot of concussions lately.
A lot of concussions, a lot of issues in the news here. This is the it issue in the NFL this year. This is the big issue, and everyone's asking why. A few things. One, like you said, you have high-profile players, the two quarterbacks from the Super Bowl, Roethlisberger and Warner. You have Clinton Portis. You have a couple of the Eagles' high-profile players with Brian Westbrook with two, and now Deshaun Jackson. That's one reason. Another reason, there was a survey done that players are playing through these concussions. Another reason, congressional hearings where they put the NFL on the carpet and compared them to the tobacco industry. So that calls for these actions. Now we have a lot of actions. We have independent neurologists. We have guidelines on when players can and can't play. There's still a lot of questions, Sid. What if a player comes back and passes all the tests? Do you play him or do you still hold him out another week? So all these kind of things have to be answered. I think what we're seeing is a mindset that's different. And in past years, maybe Kurt Warner, maybe Ben Roethlisberger, maybe Brian Westbrook, maybe Clinton Portis plays in the past game or two. And that's not happening. And that's probably a good thing for those guys' health long term. Short term, obviously, maybe other players, we saw Hines Ward, other players may get frustrated. But that's where we are in football right now, and that's going to continue.
Andrew, you recently cited, talking about the collective bargaining agreement in one of your columns, that more and more players are pushing to get a deal done between the league and the union. By your account, there's going to be over 200 players who would be free agents with a cap, but will not be without one. What's the story there?
Well, this is going to be a big issue as we move forward towards March, because as we sit here today, collective bargaining talks are slow, and you have, as I mentioned, these 200 players that if there's a new collective bargaining agreement, if there's a salary cap, they'll be free, and they'll be open to bidding by 31 teams in addition to their own. If not, as it is now, where these 4- and 5-year players are not going to be free, they're going to be restricted free agents, subject to the rights of the teams that have them. Listen, we got names like Elvis Dumervil, Brandon Marshall, Kyle Orton, all three players on the Broncos. And the San Diego Chargers with Marcus McNeil, with Sean Merriman, with Darren Sproles. All these guys are going to be subject to the rights of the Broncos and Chargers rather than being free. You're going to see a lot of pressure being placed on agents to place pressure on the union to get a deal done, to make these guys free agents. And we're going to see the bubbling up to the surface over the next 3 months of players that say, hey, what about me? What about the pot of gold that I was promised in free agency, and now it's 2 years away? So again, these provisions were put in to try to get a deal done. The meetings have gone underground, which I think is a good thing. But my sources say there's just not a lot of progress right now. Whether that changes after the season, we'll see.
60 seconds to go here, Andrew. I know you've got a affinity here for Brett Favre. Right now, quickly at the end, I give you Chris Johnson, Brett Favre, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning. Who's the MVP this year?
If you ask me here today, first week of December, coming off the game Monday night, and I know he's a National Football Post spokesman, so I know I'm biased as well with Brett. But this guy, Brees, has to be the guy right now.
Tough to argue. Andrew, thank you as always for the tremendous insight. We'll see you again next week right here on Dollars and Cents. And, of course, you can catch all of Andrew's great writing, and it is great, at the nfpost.com. And follow Andrew on Twitter at @ADBrandt. That is @ADBrandt. For Andrew Brandt, I'm Sid Rosenberg. As always, enjoy the football, and we'll see you next time right here on Dollars and Cents.